one question right off the bat. You said very powerfully in your talk, you said, I don't have faith. I don't have to have faith. Faith has me. We're wondering, what advice would you have for someone who's lost their faith?
I think my point is you can't lose something that was never yours. That's a collective thing. I think we come in and out of that collective knowledge. I for sure believe less than when I was ordained of the stuff of faith. But I came to understand through the work I came to understand the truths of what I still believe. And that is, it's not the dogma of love, it's the doggedness of love.
Yeah.
And if you can commit with some fidelity, some faithfulness to love, I think there's nothing to lose. I think we come in and out of all kinds of dogmatic stuff, but that we are part of the heart of God and we will live in the memory of God forever, because that is where our journey begins and ends.
They get easier. Having been abused by church leaders, why did you choose to become a priest rather than run away from the church?
You know, my mom, God bless her, my mom, by the way, ended up dying the week we opened the Thistle Farms first house in 97. It was super, but she would have been so proud and so happy, but she raised me believing God is love. She spared me so much therapy time. Seriously, that's what I'm talking about teaching your kids. Like, God is love. That is so freeing and so beautiful, and it doesn't make you confused that the guy that was abusing you acted on behalf of God. I was never confused about that. That was not God. God was definitely the one weeping with me. God was definitely the one who may have turned God's head to save me shame. But God was not anything but on the side of healing and love in that. So I didn't have to go like, well, the church did this. It was like, no, that asshole did this. That's a biblical sense of that word, by the way.
Yeah, Levi, Cain, and Moses, skip that part.
Oh, Levi and Cain and Moses are well versed in that part. Yeah, I mean, I preach about that abuse on purpose because I think it takes some of the power out of it. It takes some of that idea that this is somehow, I mean, I get why that would have been his secret in his life, which it wasn't, because I'd written about it while he was, anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is that when we are able to talk about it, while it may not prevent the first child from being abused by somebody, that child might feel like they're in a safe environment and be able to tell that so it doesn't have to happen to another 99. So the idea is if you preach about it and if you talk about it, kids then go, oh, this is not safe for me. This is not a place, I can go to this person. This person is a safe person to talk about what is safe and what is not safe. So, sorry.
Okay. And again, you're going to be facing them, not me, when you answer these. We're going to get to a number of questions about Thistle Farms in a little bit, but some more personal ones. This person writes, as a therapist, I found it very difficult to treat the abuser. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that or any piece of advice on how do you treat an abuser as opposed to an abused.
Who also has a ditch, right? Mm-hmm. I try to remember that. I don't have much else to say on that, but I have a lot to say about it in that book, Practically Divine. It's the actual story of my abuser's grandson. So anyway, but it's too long for Q&A.
When your colleague said, "I didn't know there was a sky above the clouds," what is it in you that could allow that to break you open and to encourage you in your ministry? Is there a practice that you gave or that you do that gives you the ability to see that?
Well, that's a beautiful question. And I think for me, always, whenever we have the gift of witnessing someone or ourselves, we can look at a sky and all of a sudden it's a wheel in a wheel. There's a dove. There's all these things in the sky. And I think when we witness that, it's a vision. And when we get to be a part of our vision or we get to be a part of someone else's vision, and we've been given the grace to be alert enough to see it, then we feel a wash of God's love, of God's presence. And that pulls us into a space of joy.
I've seen you and had you preach in a number of ways, and a number of places, and I've always noticed that you're barefoot. I hadn't thought twice about it, but someone did write, "Why are you barefoot when you preach?" Is there a significance?
Yes, again, I'll refer you to one of the books. No, I am barefoot when I preach. And not only was I 8.5 months pregnant when I got ordained, which made it very convenient to not wear shoes. If you've ever been 8.5 months pregnant in the summer in Nashville. But also there's a long tradition of barefoot, not only just in other faiths, but the sisters of St. Francis, who they were the decalced nuns. When they got ordained, they took off their shoes to be in solidarity with women on the streets. And I decided that would be my practice to not forget. One of the highlights of being barefoot, there's a whole bunch of highlights. One of them, if somebody says, "Why do you not wear shoes?" And I'm like, it's also a question of why are you wearing shoes? It could go either way, but two of the highlights was when I did the CNN thing, they made me sign a waiver to be barefoot. I had to sign a waiver, which was awesome. And then when I went on the Kelly Clarkson show, what is his name that, I can't remember, Tim something. He did a show about guys, the last guy standing. Tim Allen took off his shoes to join me. It was really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Would you have any tips on how best do we teach children about the suffering in the world that they may not see? How would we go around? What would we say to children in order to teach them about the suffering?
Well, I think that children have the world in their laps before we know it. If you're opening a computer, iPad, phone in the morning, you're getting that information. You're getting it from all kinds of places. So the question is whether or not they're getting that information, but who they're getting that information from. And, I think there's a lot of people who are have a lot more expertise about the best ways to do it. I do believe storytelling is so powerful. I believe individual stories are powerful. Your own story is bearing witness to what compassion looks like. I believe simple acts of gratitude. You remember we used to have the mite boxes. Do y'all remember the mite boxes? That's how I learned about that stuff. There's simple things you do that begin the conversation. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to tell you about, all the stuff. Here's some things that we can begin to have the conversation about. And again, if we trust creativity and curiosity, it's a way to do it. I'll also say if you order from Thistle Farms Global Products, you'll be able to tell the story a lot easier because you'll have this beautiful, beautiful hand-knit basket from Ukrainian women. You'll have they have these beautiful doves that the women in Bethlehem have made. There's these beautiful ways that you can have these healing oils from women survivors in Rwanda. It's all kinds of stuff like that. It makes the story hopeful.
There were just a number of questions about victims of sexual abuse from around the world, including those Israeli victims of sexual abuse from October 7 and abuse elsewhere. I don't know how to group them all into one question except to say, how do you work with victims of abuse?
I mean, we're working with women survivors of abuse right here.
There it is.
To be super clear.
Okay. Have you?
Amen?
Amen.
Yeah. I mean, that is not relegated to one place or one segment of the world. It happens that not all our stories may have included more support. It may have included not a direct family member. It may have included some different educational things. There's all kinds of reasons. But the scars that women bear, you can't see them. One of the things I noticed, Brian Stevenson and I talked about this, when you go to EJI and you see those horrific marks on the backs of people that experienced, the horrific violence in this country, it's like you can't see the women's scars. And they are so real and so there. So I don't think that we should, and for men too who are survivors, by the way, men too who are survivors. But I feel like it's just about treating people with love and respect because we have to honor all the stories. We have to honor all the people and all the stories because we don't know. I've had, a talk and then somebody whispers in my ear, like a woman in her 80s whisper in my ear, "It happened to me." And I wonder, was that the first time she ever whispered it? How long had she been carrying that? So what I like to think of is that in our storytelling and in our work together, that comes out in some ways. It comes out through very safe, therapeutic ways. We have beautiful counselors and therapists all across the board that do this work day in and day out. But also, I think the work that we do in groups of women, there's safety in numbers. And it's part of the reason women always went down to wash their clothes together by the river. But like when we sit and we begin a group making welcome mats from the women of Syria out of the life vests that they had. They'll start tearing the life vests. They start telling stories. They share goals. They share dreams. But some of the violence comes out, but it's almost like it is with their peers and their friends, and it feels somewhat safe in small groups of women who begin to trust each other over the course of work. And also one of the biggest stresses and traumas is being that poor. And the idea that you can sell these mats for $125 and women can start ordering buses to get their kids to the doctor. They can start hiring somebody to help them with their visas. All of a sudden, they get more excited about possibility. And so healing begins to happen in that storytelling. So it's not like you're counseling a victim. It's like you're participating in a trust walk together.
Some of our questioners are struggling with the issue of forgiveness, that they and that their faith commands them to forgive. How do you forgive the unforgivable, and how do you love them?
How do what?
How do you love them who may have abused you?
Well, I can only speak about. This is personal for everybody, and I honor that. You can hold on to anything you want. That is your right. But for me, I wasn't willing to. I just couldn't live like that. I couldn't. And forgiveness was not an event, where I pronounced forgiveness. It wasn't like that at all. It was a journey. Forgiveness is a journey. It is a hard journey, but it's also a journey where you start feeling freedom. It's like, whoo, I am not carrying that around. Like, I can pray for him. I can love and really hope healing in his life. And I don't know, there's women at Thistle Farms, who have been convicted of murder. in the journey of forgiveness of self and seeking forgiveness from others, in addition to having to forgive so much from when they were 5 and 6. It's complicated, and it's hard, and it is amazing to watch, where people begin to see, like, I made this, I must have beautiful hands. I did this, I must be worthy of it. When people come into Thistle Farms and they have a chore like mowing the grass at one of the houses, like you'll have a woman come up and go, "Do you see the grass I mowed?" And I'm like, "Yes, it's amazing. It was perfect. Did you like it?" "I loved it. It was great. Did you see how like I did all the rows?" "Yes, that was awesome." And it's like, it's worthy. It is great. They want to know they are worthy, they are great. Even in the midst of some things that they have done that have been horrific and have been done to them. I love the prayer, the things we have done and left undone, and it's the things done to us and not done to us. The things that we can forgive and the things we can't forgive, we offer all of it. And so the journey begins.
What can people do right now to support women's freedom?
So that's a beautiful question. We are in the midst of really trying to scale operations. There's so many groups that are suffering right now globally. There's so many. And we are grateful to get to support them. What we want to do is we want to start producing more glass and recyclable materials and all of these things for so many groups that are smaller than ours that can't do it. So for us, what we're always looking for is more people to become part of the community, whether it's, take a photo with me after this, put it on social media, tell your friends, whether it's order your holiday products from us, whether you have, a family foundation that wants to invest in a glass making machine. There's all kinds of ways. Like I said, I think all of this is about a journey we take together at whatever level. But the more that we're able to communicate, advocate, join forces in community, the more women that can feel freedom. I will say one of the last houses we opened is in Tucson, Arizona. And it's for asylum-seeking women who have all suffered great abuse trying to find their way to freedom. And we are having success in asylum seeking right now. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. This model of small houses, so this is 5 families, women and children from different parts of the world living in Tucson that are doing with the Presbyterians, with the Mennonites, and with the Episcopalians coming together, women, and doing this beautiful demonstration of how we can still continue to hope and do this work. That's all.
Someone's curious, from what source did your early funding come from?
So, as my husband is a singer-songwriter, and that was back when singer-songwriters made money in Nashville. Y'all know that's gone down about 85%. Yeah, so he wrote songs like Bless the Broken Road, Cowboy Take Me Away. Do y'all remember those songs?
Yes.
If anybody's been married twice, I think it's the most performed song at second marriages is Bless the Broken Road. So he hangs with a great group of people who are very generous. And they were the first funders, along with an offering given by one of the very wealthy churches in Nashville, gave us their Easter offering, and that's how we started. And we opened the first house on the street that I lived on so that nobody would say, not in my backyard. It was like my neighbor. And we started that way, so it was pretty simple. So we didn't have to raise a ton of money, but we didn't take any federal or state money. And then we started the Bath and Body Care Company to help each other, the women and I, make money. So we do this alongside the women survivors. The director of all the housing, all the residential services, she's a graduate of the program. She was trafficked, I think, starting at the age of 5 or 6, ran away at 14. She went back and got her master's in social work and runs all the programs. The woman that runs all $5 million in bath and body care sales, graduate of the program that worked her way up from candle maker. The woman who runs the whole national network, graduate of the program, went back and got her degree. So when I say run by, I mean that. Women who have done this work over decades to be a witness that women do heal.
A practical question, is Thistle Farms a for-profit or not non-profit?
Way non-profit.
I think the questioner was wondering about when you said engaging the marketplace, and so they're interested.
Yeah, people get confused about that. You can be a not-for-profit and have a justice enterprise. There's no problem in that. And if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're not going to be making money. Like, we may make $5 million in sales, but we're spending $12 million a year to keep it all going. Do you know what I'm saying? So we can make margin on a candle so that women are paid living wages, and that candle pays for the labor and the cost of goods, but we're not trying to have manufacturing candles on the back of the entire mission of helping another 400. We have more than 400 women on the waiting list. So we're not trying to make that. That's not the goal, is to have the candles pay for all that. We are missional people. The business is part of that, but the overall scope is much bigger than that.
Okay, just 5 more minutes. We'll allow ample time for the book signing. But one question, how do you start a thistle farm in your own area?
So yesterday, like, I was on a Zoom call. I'm always back in Nashville for these, but I wasn't, which is an educational training day. So we had 5 women who want to open an asylum-seeking house for survivors in Indiana. We had a group of women from North Carolina. We had a group of women from Chattanooga. We had a group of women from Ohio. They come and we spend 2 days doing education and training. We're very serious about scaling on this network versus opening one house at a time, that it's doable. You know, I mean, the whole idea is that it's crazy to think, you know, you're going to make a difference if you open a house for 5 women. But it's crazier to think anything's ever going to change if you don't. We started with 5 women, and the idea of growing small houses of beautiful, committed communities of women that really have this gift of they never have to go back to the streets. They never have to go interview for a job without teeth. They never have to meet their children in a scary place. You know, all of those things, like, it's over. It's over. We can do this on a small scale, but if all of us do this on a small scale, I was raised to believe that it's so beautiful, I love it, that we do these, what is it, small acts with great love. And I love that. And I love that that's Mother Teresa, that is Catherine of Siena, that's our tradition. But there's also something powerful about, let's do something big with a little bit of love that we have. Like, if we all take this little bit of love and pull it together in this communal thing, it becomes a big thing, which is amazing, I am convinced that the first pioneers of Thistle Farms that came through are the ones that helped change the language, that helped change legislation. You know, I mean, there wasn't the word human trafficking when we started out. I know that some of the leaders that I've gotten the privilege to serve alongside have helped change that.
Boy, I don't want to ask another question after that one. I do want to hold this up again. Practically Divine, including a tribute from Isabel Allende about this book, a moving book about broken women, wounded communities, and the power of practical love. She said, this is a prayer book, a manual for living with an open heart. So all those questions about that I didn't get to on how best to support Thistle Farms begin here. Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions you have that are more private at the book signing. And I'm also happy to continue the conversation beyond this. If you go to our website, you'll see my email. You'll see exactly how I'll do anything to help.
Becca Stevens, you have healed us in a big way today. Thank you.